Welcome to Module 1, which will serve as our introduction to threat intelligence. We'll define what this process or industry is really focused on, what it's about, how we can incorporate into not only our cybersecurity functions, but also how threat intelligence helps us make informed business decisions. We have 8 course modules that we're going to explore, which is going to initially focus on the following. We're going to define threat intelligence. We're going to cover essential terminology that will help us learn and communicate better when we are involved in these practices or processes. We are going to explore key differences between intelligence information and threat data. They kind of follow a linear fashion as to how things start as information or data, and then it becomes heavily analyzed and contextualized threat intelligence. We're going to understand the importance of threat intelligence, why we should be using this in our organization, along with some best practices that can guide our efforts. We're going to see some of the differences between traditional cybersecurity methods, how threat intelligence incorporates with cyber operations. Then we're going to look into some maturity models and the threat intelligence lifecycle as a whole. We will look at roles and responsibilities within the threat intelligence profession. We'll cover some of the main topics, but we will be providing an ebook that also delves into many of these concepts further. Module 1 is going to climb and start closing out, looking at threat intelligence standards, frameworks, and key performance indicators that we can use to measure the effectiveness of our threat intelligence program. And then what we're going to do is look at establishing the Splunk attack range. This is a free resource that Splunk has built and provided to the public. And we're going to build that up in Amazon Web Services using a free tier account. And then this is going to serve as a useful exercise or range for us to develop threat intelligence habits, learn about tactics, techniques, and procedures of cyber threat actors, and it will become generally useful as we get to the middle portions of this course. So let's dive into some of the essential threat intelligence terminology, and that's going to really help us start getting oriented to this profession, to some of the communications and nomenclature, and then as we understand core definitions and terminology, it'll just help us become more effective as we get deeper into the course or within the profession itself. So it usually helps to define the central idea that we're talking about. We might ask ourselves, well, what is threat intelligence? Why is it useful to me? How can I put it to work for myself or my organization? When we really think about threat intelligence as a whole, we could define it as a methodology or a step-by-step driven process that really helps us gather, analyze, add context to, and disseminate data useful to ourselves or our organization. So really, as we get into Module 1, now that we've kind of defined what threat intelligence is, it's this data-driven process to actively gather, analyze, and interpret actionable data about potential risks that may impact the org. What we're going to kick things off with is looking at some of the core terminology. You may have a longer list, but these are going to be some of the repeating central themes that we will see used throughout the industry and as you practice looking through tools or gaining intelligence from external sources. When we look at and think about core threat intelligence terminology, what we're really thinking about are threat actors, their tactics, techniques, and procedures, the indicators of compromise or the artifacts that they leave behind, more advanced threat actors called advanced persistent threats, the dark web where all of these threat actors sort of communicate and congregate, and the threat landscape, which is this dynamic shifting environment that the organization must continually contend with. It could be our systems, it could be the cyber threat actors themselves. It's this whole environment that everything's operating in and that threat intelligence professionals are interested in wrestling with, understanding, making sense out of, and helping the organization navigate through. So when we talk about threat actors, what we're really talking about is typically less sophisticated individuals. It could be one person, it could be a group of people. They may be in the same region or geographically dispersed, But a cyber threat actor is someone who has some intent, or in the case of a negligent insider, someone who is trying to or may do harm to us or our organization. Cyber threat actors employ tactics, techniques, and procedures. Their approach to attacking an organization, the specific tools that they use, and really how they go from start to finish to attacking an organization and getting what they want out of their malicious activities. We'll dive more into tactics, techniques, and procedures in later modules, along with indicators of compromise, which are the artifacts that will be left behind as a threat actor executes their tactics, techniques, and procedures. We can think of this as going to be an IP address and a log, maybe a website that the cyber threat actor is trying to get a tool to return data to. It could be them reaching out to their command and control infrastructure. As we get more towards advanced persistent threats, these are going to be your nation-state actors. They're going to be more sophisticated than your average threat actor. And advanced persistent threats are usually characterized by cyber attacker outfits that they're far better resourced. They have more experience doing this. They are more heavily networked. And they're operating a very advanced structure, not unlike multinational corporations, where compromising large companies or victims is their main order of business. They're not doing this for fun, like a script kiddie. They're there looking to do damage to advance political agendas, to harm political enemies, or to just get a lot of money via ransomware from large organizations or small businesses that they compromise over and over. Advanced persistent threats are usually characterized by a longer dwell time, and they are very difficult to get out of an environment in many cases. The dark web is the portion of the internet where cyber threat actors, advanced persistent threats, this is where they congregate, and they may seek assistance from other outfits or threat actors. They may sell victim information on the dark web, and they may either sell or obtain tools and services to perform specialized attacks against certain organizations. The dark web must usually be accessed via special software like a Tor browser, and it's typically a portion of the internet that the general populace has no interaction or knowledge of. Cyber threat actors may also use the dark web to taunt their victims, to communicate as they progress through an attack, and for many other nefarious purposes. And again, the threat landscape is a collection of threats, the risks, the security infrastructure, tools, any of the general challenges that organizations must contend with. It's shifting by the hour, by the day. There's always new threats, new threat actors emerging, and this is constantly something that threat intelligence teams have to wrestle with, contend with, and try to make sense out of to keep their organizations safe.